Recording is starting. Okay, the recording has started. Okay, excellent.
Can I ask one more thing? Did you ask to turn captions on when the recording started?
I asked for a transcript.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Okay, good morning, folks. Thank you for coming to our lunch and learn. It's myself and Laura Dudnick here. Go ahead and wave, Laura. I think most of you know Laura, but yeah, and just I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'm going to start right away. And essentially, what this is a lunch and learn that really mirrors. It really mirrors the clubhouse session from all admin that some people were not able to come to. And it's the same material that we shared there, which is relevant still because it's still the beginning of the year. And it talks about comprehensive school safety, especially as it pertains to completing the comprehensive school safety plan that is required by the state every year for school sites. How it pertains to crisis communications and how we support through the communications department and Laura Dudnick and her team, how we support school sites when something happens and how we're supporting the communication with your stakeholders. And then also we talk about in this presentation how it pertains to crisis response. And so it's kind of like before, during, and after. The before and during is myself and Laura in terms of emergency preparedness and how we support sites to be ready for that and different types of things that happen and what you need to do. And then the after is the crisis response team that is run through the Student and Family Services Department. And that is, why can't I talk? And that's Jason Finau and Michael. He's new. I can't think of his last name, but they're in the Student and Family Services Division, and they support with crisis response. And so we'll talk a little bit about how you can access support from them also in this presentation. So really quick, I just realized I didn't introduce myself. My name is Greg Markwith. I'm the Director of Emergency Planning and Preparedness. Just a little bit about me. This is year 18 in the district. I was a site leader for 13 years. Previous to that, I was an English teacher, all in high school. I came into this role in January of 2021, but the first year and a half of this role was working on the COVID response team with all of our favorite folks, Grace Chang, Mele Lau Smith, Mary Ju, Sarah White. And then a year ago, I was able to actually start this job because COVID's over, right? Not over. But I was able to actually start doing this full time. A lot of good things came out of last year and a lot of things that I learned. And now I'll quickly let Laura introduce herself.
Thank you, Greg. Hi, everyone. My name is Laura Dudnick, and I work in the district's communications office. I've been with the district almost 6 years, and before that, I worked in journalism for over 10 years. And so Greg and I have been working, for the last year or so on making sure that our schools can be as prepared as possible in case of an emergency. And that includes how do you communicate with families and staff in an emergency. So we'll be getting into that a little bit later, but it's great to see all of you. Thank you for coming.
So we're going to start as Allison Rothman keeps asking nicely, if you could please sign in for the lunch and learn. There's a QR code there with the bit.ly. Please sign in there. So and as you do that, I'm going to get started. So the presenters here is myself and Laura. I lied about Christine and Jason being here. That's not really happening. But we are surrogates for them. I just forgot to change that slide. So these are the presenters today. And so really what, and that is the wrong date. That's from the clubhouse. Really what today is about is, and I'm going to say it again, is, and it's not the facilities division anymore. We are the operations division, and really how the operations division, and namely, emergency preparedness, which is me essentially, comms division, which is Laura and her team, and the student and family services division, which is Jason and Michael, who I'll talk about a little bit later. How we're all working together really in support of school sites and school site leaders and stakeholders at the site. So when something does happen, you know in advance sort of what to do, and B, that you know that there's a group of people in central office that when something happens, get activated in support of school sites. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that looks like on the back end, just so you all know that last year we got really tight around what that looks like. And I want to share with you sort of what's happening behind the scenes when something actually does happen. So today, you're going to learn what you need to do to complete the CSSP for school site safety plans for 23-24, how you can access support from the comms division in event of emergency, how you can access support from the SFUSD crisis response team within the Student and Family Services Division, and where to find information and assistance in the future as it pertains to topics we discussed. And that's a real big one for us. You're not going to remember everything I talk about today or Laura and I talk about, but I do want you to know where you can find that. So that's a different sign-in sheet. Don't sign in there. Icebreaker. We are going to, you know what? We're going to skip the icebreaker because we have a lot of content to cover and I want to be able to answer questions. Okay, so a little bit of a visual in terms of what sort of, what a prepared district looks like and what we're trying to accomplish, which is school sites are completing their safety plans. We have clear, regular, and appropriate levels of communication before, during, and after an event or an incident at a school site. School sites are completing regular school site emergency drills. For schools that are grades 6 through 12, you are training students in the Say Something Anonymous reporting system, which I can answer questions about a little bit later on. And school site security infrastructure, which is the actual physical site security sort of features at your school site. We're talking about security cameras, the security camera system. We're talking about remote door access, so the A phones. We're talking about the intrusion alarms. And we're talking about site security lock sets, like what we used to call Columbine locks, but we call them security lock sets or double cylinder locks now. The why are we talking about this now? That sounds like it would probably be self-evident, but just to remind folks, school safety is one of the most, if not the most prevalent concern in SFUSD and across the country. Last year, 40 out of 120 schools turned their safety plan in on time. So I did a lot of reflecting last year on over the year of how I can front load better and how I can provide support to school sites to make sure that they're completing their safety plans on time, but with fidelity, and they feel like they have resources and ways to get help on completing the safety plans and doing the drills. There was some confusion as to the how of the safety plan, like what you actually had to do for the safety plan. There was a pretty low drill percentage, at least sites that self-reported the drills in doing them. And the fact of the matter is we have a lot of new site admin, not only to their sites, but new to site admin in general. I think at last count, 65 new site admin either to the district or to their site. And I think maybe it's now up to 70. So there's a lot of new faces, not only in the district, but at their sites. So a little bit of information about drills, and just know that this data is self-reported. So the ask was that when a school site completed a drill, that they completed the Google form to let me know that they did it. This is the middle school and high school drill tally. The biggest concern for me, I mean, the fire is basically the evacuation drill. But the biggest concern for me is the amount of self-reported lockout and lockdown drills that if you're looking at self-reported data did not happen. Um, no middle schools reported a lockout drill done. And 5 and 10 lockdown drills in high school, high school and middle school for lockdown, which is, and this is not to make folks feel like it's not a way to shame them, but it's really a way for me to gather data and say like, okay, what can I do differently in support of sites doing drills with more regularity and fidelity? Elementary, we know that the fire captains or other folks from the fire department come by the site every month to do fire drills. So there's a high percentage of sites doing fire drills. Again, some of it just might not have been reported. But I think when I saw this data again, it just told me that, how can I as somebody who is responsible for sort of providing support to school sites, make sure that sites are doing them and they feel prepared to do them. So what's new this year for the site safety plans? The due date has been pushed back from October to December. The reason for this is, there's two parts of this safety plan, which is it's a compliance piece and it's a compliance piece and it's something you need to do to make sure that your school site. Somebody from outside of SFUSD just came in. Jacob, may I ask, where?
Yeah, sorry. That's my wrong. Does this say Berkeley?
Oh, Jacob, I know you. You're at Civic Center.
Yeah, I'm at Civic Center.
Got
I'm
it.
sorry I'm late. My apologies.
My bad. No problem. I just wanted to make sure somebody wasn't crashing the party that we didn't know. Okay. Thank you, Jacob. So, and the reason for that, like I said, I mean, part of it is a compliance piece. The state comes in and does an audit of the safety plans to make sure that they're done and they're done correctly. But also I want to make sure that folks are doing I don't want folks rushing to do their safety plans just so they can get it in. I want them to do it correctly. We've got to get sites doing drills quickly because you never know when something's going to happen. But I also want to make sure that they're doing them correctly because it doesn't make sense to do a drill if folks are not ready and it's not being done correctly. The plan this year is shorter with more links. Again, I spent a lot of time thinking about when I was a site leader, and if I still was a site leader, what would I want this template to look like so it's more user-friendly? I wanted to be a little bit more clear on the how, like what do you actually have to do to complete this plan, and clarity on the how and when to do site drills. And so I tried to be very explicit about of the how and when to do the drills and have everything just right here in one place. And I take that back, in one place, but also in other places. So folks had different ways to get the information. Okay, so the basics. So again, it's about compliance. This is state law. There's a state audit every year, and we have never passed it. Last year was the first time with 100% completion rate with the safety plans, and the last school that turned it in April, even though the due date was October. And so that told me there were some changes that need to be made. But again, this was the first year. The last year was the first year that I think we will actually pass the audit. We did not pass the audit for 21-22. And so we had findings. So that means we got dinged again. And so it's not a good look when we don't pass the audit. And so it's sort of a parallel thing where we want to pass the audit, but we also want to make sure folks are feeling prepared. The other main objective is that the site council needs to review and vote to approve the plan. So please plan ahead with your meetings for the site council. If you know that this is due on December 6th, you should be having your meeting to share this plan with the site council in November. And I'll talk in the site plan template, it talks about what you need to do in the site council meeting to make sure that you are running this meeting correctly to get the approval. Because what the state wants to see is that they want to see an agenda for the meeting, they want to see a sign-in sheet, and they want to see minutes. And in the minutes, it has to talk about how the site council approved the plan. Those are the three main things. And if I don't have that, I'm going to be bothering you in December to say, where are these things? Because the auditors want to see them. It's not just me trying to be bothersome, but this is what the state needs to see. The other main objective of the site plan is for me to share emergency response actions and for you to share them with your stakeholders. So you need to share these emergency response actions and how to do them with your staff and students prior to the first drill. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the presentation. And the other thing you need to do is you need to run your drills and submit them to me that you're doing the drills. So I have an idea of how many sites are doing the drills and how often they're doing them. Because in December, I'm going to take a look at that data and I'm going to share it with LEAD to say, here's which sites are doing the drills and here's what sites are not, and how can we support them in doing those drills. And to confirm that maybe they are doing the drills and they're not completing the form. And so it's a piece of data that allows me to have this conversation with LEAD. And the other thing I'm going to really ask you to do right now, please, 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 is to join the Google Classroom right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, in the chat right now, I'm going to put the joining the Google Classroom link, as well as the code to enter to join it. I don't think you need the code if you have the link, but that did not work. My bad. Let me actually put the link in here. Here we go. That should work. And that way, because I'm going to be that has all the information that I'm sharing right now. It has it in the Google Classroom. The other thing I'm going to share is the SFUSD admin handbook, comprehensive school safety page. It's all right there as well. Bookmark that. I really wanted to make sure that there's lots of different ways to find this information. Okay, we are going to keep moving on here. So would you guys let's do 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes of questions about what I've shared so far. Actually, I see Megan, I see a question in the chat. Megan, I'm going to answer that question and then we'll do some more Q&A. Can you elaborate on how it was approved? Can you say more about that, Megan, please?
Yeah, you had said hi, Greg. You had said that in our SSC minutes that you want to see how the plan was approved. So do the minutes just say SSC voted and it was approved, or like what specifically are you looking for?
I'm sorry. I really wanted to get across that I want to see in the minutes that it was approved. So, but yes, you're absolutely right. And I believe on page, I don't know, 2 or 3 of the actual CSSP template, it talks about it. But yeah, I just want you to, because really what you're sharing is you're sharing, and it goes on about this in the template. You're sharing the evacuation route maps. You're sharing when you're doing the drills. You're sharing sister sites. You're sharing off-campus evacuation location. You're kind of sharing all the main parts of this plan. But yes, it says principal shared CSSP with the site council. Site council had X questions, whatever. Site council approved the plan. good night and have a good evening, like that sort of thing, you know?
Okay, thanks.
Yep, you're welcome. Any other questions that we want to just sort of, and you can just come off mic and ask them. Just if anybody has any questions fresh in their mind.
Hey, when you want us to run your drills and submit them, I'm looking on section. I apologize if it's clear as day and I'm missing it. I looked at section 2.4 and it's just got like a lot of the guidance on like how to let the families know prior to the drill. I'm assuming that like when we do a drill, we need to just hit a Google form. We perform the drill this date, this, that, and what other.
You're saying, oh, well, so if you scrolled, so you're asking where's the form?
I got it. Thanks, Monette.
No problem.
Okay. Thanks, Isaac, for the question. Any other, or the statement, or whatever that was. Any other questions that are on people's burning in their mind? Ooh, I also almost forgot. If there's if anybody has a question that they think of later, I actually created a Google form. Excuse me, another Google form that is a like an FAQ doc. If you have any questions that come up later, I'm creating FAQ like Google sheet, and so I can share it out with folks to see what other people ask. And if you put a question in there, I will answer it. Okay, I guess, Laura, we're just like, the information is so clear as day that there's no questions. Okay, Laura, I'm going to have you jump in so we can hear a different voice, and we'll talk a little bit about communications response.
Okay, thank you, Greg. Hi, everyone. So glad to see all of you here. So we're going to go into our recommendations for communications best practices if or when there's an emergency at your school site. I want to first start by saying that while we have guidance and best practices, every emergency is different and the circumstances may be different, and you know your school community's best. So we're here to support and we're here to thought partner. But ultimately, I think that it's important to think through while an emergency might fall into one of these categories, there might be other circumstances that are worth considering when you are thinking about if or how to communicate with families and staff about something. So we've broken up the types of emergencies into 3 potential responses that we would recommend at your site. The first would be a low impact disturbance, which is something that doesn't disrupt the flow of the school day. It may have been seen by some people at your school and they might be asking questions about it, or there might be rumors floating around that you want to correct the record on. And so for that, we would recommend sending a message to all families and staff via email by the end of the day. We're happy to share a template. We're happy to review a draft that you create, and we can also help you think about if it needs to be translated. And then if you're not able to send it out on School Messenger, we can help send it out on School Messenger. So an example of this would be actually just last week at one of our sites, there was an instance where something happened outside of campus and the school had to call the police who responded to campus. So the threat was not on campus. The school didn't go into lockdown or lockout, but a lot of people on campus, a lot of students saw the police and were asking questions. So the principal decided it was in the best interest to send a message to families by the end of the day, just explaining that everyone is safe. The school followed all protocols. The police were there for an incident not related to the school. So that would be a low impact incident. If it's something that's not seen by a lot of your school community, though, that's also something to consider because we don't want to cause alarm unnecessarily with families. For a medium impact incident, this would be something like a lockdown or a lockout that does disrupt the flow of the school day just temporarily. So the day is able to resume regular activities, but clearly everybody at school was impacted by the incident and maybe having feelings around it. So in that case, we do recommend sending an auto dial, text message, and email to families on School Messenger. It can be by the end of the day, or it can be as soon as possible in the middle of an instance. And then if it is something that needs to be sent right away, our office is available to help draft and review and send those messages. So we're again here to partner with you on that. And then a high impact incident is something where your school might need to evacuate or even close for the remainder of the day. And in this case, we recommend sending a message to families immediately via auto dial, text message, and email, and then additional follow-up communications as needed, such as, if there's a reunification area, if school is going to be open the next day, other relevant information that families would need to have. And again, we can support with those messages as well. The medium and the high impact incidents may have a media presence. So you probably have all experienced media showing up at your school. We are also here to support you with that. So you are not obligated to talk to the media and your staff are not obligated to talk to the media. That's what our office is for. So I would be deployed out to a school site if there is media starting to show up and stand outside off campus. So that you don't have to worry about talking to them. But we do want to make sure that the media are getting accurate information because families might be watching TV or listening to the radio. We want to make sure that they're getting accurate information. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So SFUSD, we have mass notification guidelines. Hopefully you're all familiar with School Messenger, which is the platform that the district uses to communicate with families and staff. Using School Messenger, we can send auto dials, or also called robocalls, where you record a message and it could be in any language, and then that can get sent to families that have listed that language as their home language. School Messenger can also send text messages and emails. So each site should have at least 3 people trained in School Messenger, 1 lead, the person who would be the first point of contact to send something, and then 2 backups in case that person's out. And every school has the capability to send a school-wide message, but before you do use this tool, you want to think about what is the appropriate vehicle. Should it be an auto dial? Should it be a text message? Should it be an email? Should it be all 3? And then what is the timing of when you're sending it? Because if you send an auto dial at 9 p.m. to all families, that's obviously going to cause alarm and they're going to wonder why the message is that urgent. So you want to make sure you're thinking through the timing of when you send it. So in the presentation, you can click on the link to mass notification guidelines and you can review those in more detail. Next slide, please.
Hey, Laura, there's actually a question in the chat that even after I said I can answer, I actually can't answer this question because I don't know. I assume that it's a set number of characters on the School Messenger text. Megan's asking if we can increase the amount of characters.
That's a great question. We cannot, but what we do if we're sending a text that's longer than, I think it's 160 characters, is you can send 2 messages and put like 1 of 2 in brackets and then 2 of 2. But if it's going to be longer than that, then you might want to consider sending an email with the bulk of the information and then followed by a text message that says, please check your email for important update. But thank you for that question. Did that answer it, or is there any follow-up?
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's just sometimes when I try to send like a Zoom link, because you can't condense the Zoom link to say Zoom link. You have to attach the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And then if I try to translate it, it ends up being like I have to set up 3 or 4 messages and it just gets tedious. So was just wondering if there was a way to expand the characters, but never mind.
Yeah, no, I think I would maybe send the Zoom link in an email and then you can send a text saying, please check your email for the Zoom link. Okay. So just to kind of go back to best practices, when you're crafting and planning to send a message to your school community, think about what is the objective? What do you want to accomplish by this message? Is there an action requested? Is it information only? Think about the audience. Is this to all families? Is it to a subset of families? Is it to all staff and all families? So think about who are you trying to reach with your message? And then what are the key takeaways? Oftentimes messages can be quite long, and it's important to front load with the most important information at the top and to be as concise as possible, because there's been research that showed that people don't often read all the way through messages or newspaper articles or reports, and so you want to make sure you're front loading with the most important information. You want to make sure you remember that every message you send is a public record, and so it's possible that it will get shared more widely than your school community, and it can also be requested through the Public Records Request Act. And so just remember that what you're sending is a public record, so you don't want to put confidential student information or personnel information in a school-wide message. And then finally, lean on our office. The communications office is here to support you. We are here to help you with either sending a message, coming up with what is the best content, reviewing. We can share templates, but we're really here to be a partner, and we will drop what we're doing if there's an emergency at your site and you need support with notifying families and staff. And so please just know that you can reach out to us anytime. We're here to make your lives easier, especially during an emergency.
So Laura, there's a question, and I think it was in reference to something you were talking about. Denora asked, does that include being in the several languages? Oh, Denora, are you asking about whether the character limit includes being in the several languages?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at.
Okay.
Yes, it is same for all languages.
Got it. I just wanted to double check because, yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna stop. I know folks have been putting questions in the chat, but are there any other questions that are coming up for Laura regarding crisis communications? Sorry, I have to observe wait time. It's been a while since I've been in the classroom. What I do want to say is that, as Laura mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, she and I have been in lockstep kind of since August, September, not only sort of doing this, the planning around how central, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this later in the presentation, but how central office is supporting sites during an emergency. But and Laura, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the way we really like to frame emergency response is that a big part of emergency response is communication and aligning communication, because one of the most anxiety producing components of emergencies and what happens during an incident is whether information is going out in a timely manner, and whether that communication is the same across sort of all platforms within an organization. And some of the more stressful times that we've experienced, and when as a site principal that I experienced, is when different information went out at different times, or no information went out, or and so we really take it seriously that when an incident occurs, we connect, lead with Laura and lead with the site as soon as possible. And we make sure that communication is that the site's getting guidance, and that the comms division is actually supporting with that communication. And Joyce Tsai, who works in the communications division, supports Laura with that. And we had some really positive experiences last year through the sort of, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the EOC process, but really just all being on the same page. And Paul, I see your hand. I want to make sure I get you.
Yes, hi. I had a question about the evacuation plan. Are we to draw on those PDF maps ourselves, or are the fire department supposed to draw out the maps?
Okay. So in terms of, the evacuation maps that you have, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to look at those maps and then go around your school and look at where all the emergency exits are. And yes, you draw on them. It's your responsibility, and to make sure that those are all up in the common areas and office spaces, and that everybody knows which way to go. Thank you for that question, though. I appreciate it. And as long as we're talking about evacuation maps, I'm going to be transparent about something, which is, in May, I decided to embark on a project, which is to locate all the evacuation maps in the district, because there wasn't like a receptacle, there wasn't a clearinghouse for those maps that existed. And so they were kind of all over the place. So I did like a little Google Drive mining exercise, and worked with the bond project, because the way that those evacuation maps are created, if anybody's gone through a bond project modernization, is after the bond project's done, after the modernization is done, the architect is supposed to hand over to the bond project office evacuation maps, because what they do is they take the architectural plans and they created a sort of dumbed down version of those plans for the evacuation map. They're supposed to give copies to the bond project, and they're supposed to give copies to the school site. So right now, I'm working with the bond program to make sure that we have all those maps. We don't. We are about 10% of our maps are either outdated or we're still locating them. But most of them we do have, and it's in that folder, which is on the God, why can't I talk? It's on the template and it's on the Google Classroom. And so if you're ever looking for your school's evacuation maps, you can look in there. And if you can't find them, it means we're still looking for them. And please reach out to me. So anyways, it's a project that needed to be done. And I just wanted to comment on that real quick. Okay. So we're going to keep going. Thank you for everybody's patience as we move through this presentation. So I wanted to, one of the things that I really wanted to focus on this year for emergency planning is also to provide some guidance on what the schedule for the year should look like. On this slide, you can see, and this calendar or this sort of graphic also exists in the template. This is what your sort of emergency planning year should look like. School's beginning, you're getting your CSSP template updated, and you're starting to complete your safety plan, which is why all you are here. And I appreciate all of you being here. And then we look at, I kind of wanted to put together a schedule. There's not specific dates because everybody's got different things going on at their school sites of when you should start doing your drills. We're already having sites start doing drills because the fire departments are starting, they're doing fire and evacuation drills because the fire departments are starting to come around to the elementary schools and middle schools. And so that's good. Everybody's going to have their earthquake drill on October 19th. That information will be coming out very soon in terms of how to prepare for the Great American Shakeout or Great California Shakeout. And then the other thing you should start doing, which is you're doing right now, is you're starting to get your questions answered. And what I've also started doing is I've created a doodle calendar, essentially, which provides a way to schedule meetings with me if you want to have a meeting with me, if you want to spend some time talking about your plan, getting all your questions answered. And 2 sites have already done that, which is, it's great. I learn a ton from it, and we're able to get everybody's questions answered. Here's the link to schedule time with me. I blocked out about, I think, 4 or 5 different blocks of time in my week. I hold those for anybody that wants to meet, and I really appreciate and enjoy it. I met with Monroe last week, and we had a great conversation, and Thor at Monroe gave me some great suggestions that I'm following up on. So if you want to make time with me to meet, please use that link. Okay, so this is some of the meat and potatoes of this site safety plan template. Also, I want to make sure that everybody's got this template. I just realized I should put the template in here. And this is the actual template, and you all have the ability to view this template, and so, but you can't edit it. So make a copy, and that will be your template for the year that you create your plan with. On this template, we see site emergency response actions. And these emergency response actions, you can see it on the far left of that table. These are all the things that, oh, somebody already booked time. I love it. I just got a little ping on my email. So these are all the things that you need to know as a school. And then what you see on the next column is the response protocol. This is what the response protocol entails for drop, cover, and hold, lockdown, lockout, and so on and so forth. What I also provide is like a site one pager that you can put up in your classrooms, that you can put up in your office, that you can put up in common areas. That it's a shorter version of those response protocols. And for the drills, I put drill guidance, and those 4 drills are the main ones that you want to practice because, because the rest of them are not really. The evacuation and off-campus assembly is, I don't expect folks to drill. At some a couple sites we had to do off-campus evacuations last year. I don't expect people to drill to do the off-campus evacuation, but you should know where you're going, and you should know the way to get there with your, do a walking map on Google. Same thing with shelter in place, school site reunification. Again, there's response protocols, but I don't expect you to drill, but you should be prepared for, and that has those instructions on the response protocols. A little bit about the EOC structure. I talked about this a little bit before. EOC stands for Emergency Operations Center, and we had about 20 of these last year. And I'm going to show you which ones we had. Actually, I'm going to go back to what it actually looks like. So when something happens, we started this in December. When something happens at a site, the main goal, like I said, for central office is to make sure that we're supporting the site. When something happens, I, as the EOC director, usually it's me, I open basically a virtual EOC, which is a GChat. And in that GChat is a host of central office folks who are supporting the school site. And what the goal, again, is to make sure that we are getting information from the site so we can support the site. Once something happens, we have specific folks that are supporting the site. That includes Laura as the public information officer, Joyce with the comms, depending on what's going on, Jen Labar from Student Nutrition Services. If something's going wrong that we need to get shelf stable food to your site. If there's a building repair that needs to happen, we're getting a DEV involved. These are all just most likely folks that are going to be supporting the school site. And what happens is, lead is going to be the main central office support when something happens. And lead is going to be communicating in the EOC chat, letting me know what you all might need and what's going on. So as the school site leader, you can address what's going on at your site. And then what is also happening is we're exchanging information with folks in central office. Dawn is as policy and ops associate, Dawn Kamalanathan, my boss, who's the associate soup of policy and ops. Hong Mei Payne, who is the interagency liaison in the city. Dr. Wayne, who's a superintendent, Demetris Rice Mitchell, associate soup of instruction. So we are making sure that they're aware of what's going on a sort of need to know basis. But I'm the one, along with several other support folks in central office, that are deploying resources to your site based on what's going on. And so when something is happening, there's a whole thing that's happening behind the scenes to make sure sites are getting what they need in an incident. I want to share with you, we had, I think, 20 EOCs last year, and the majority of things that, these are the majority of things that happened that activated these EOCs. Major building emergencies, water main break, power outage, something really massive going on with the roof, something like that. Terrorist threat on social media. This is, posting on Instagram, posting on Snapchat. It's not Facebook because that's not what kids usually use. And then you can see the rest. So when these things happen, we get a virtual EOC going, and then we go to work. Okay, so I want to get through the crisis response, and I know this is a lot of content, but there's a lot of content as it pertains to this topic. I want to briefly talk about the crisis response team, and this is what generally is happening after something happens. This is the support that school sites get through wellness and school social workers. And if need be, crisis response team is deploying additional social workers out to a site, death of a student, a lockdown, a major lockdown incident at an elementary school or middle or high, where there needs to be support for teachers or students. We want to make sure that the crisis response team is activated based on the needs that occur. Types of crises, like I mentioned: death, dying, and loss, completed suicide or an attempt on campus, intruder lockdown, lockout after that, like I mentioned, a significant hate crime, school closure due to a natural disaster. And so what happens generally is when something like this happens, when we have an incident, about midway through, as the EOC director, I'm activating the crisis response team, which is led by Jason Finau, as I said, who's in he's a manager too in Student and Family Services Division, and Michael, and I can't think of his last name now. I apologize, but he is supporting Jason in that crisis response team. What will you provide? What will Student and Family Services provide during a crisis? What they'll do is they'll co-create a coordinated response plan with the site. That usually is a huddle with the site afterwards to say, what do you all need? Providing support in the community impacted by the crisis, counseling, connecting the school with additional resources and referrals, employee assistance program, and you can read the rest. But, really making sure that we huddle with the school or they huddle with the school. Sorry, I used to be on the team when I was in that division, so I keep saying we. That we're huddling with the school to make sure that they have, they're huddling with the school to make sure that they have what they need. If you click this link, actually, I'm going to put the link in here again. If you click the link that I'm going to put in the chat, this will provide you with instructions on how to get support from the crisis response team. Okay, so I know that was a lot. I want to provide some time for questions. I really do feel like after this last year and all the things that we've discussed and planned centrally, that we really are all in this together. And when something happens at your site, you'd be surprised at how many people are on a GChat that are really working to make sure that the site has what they need in case of an emergency or an incident. Custodial, DOT, legal, SNS, B&G, HR, transportation, comms, Student and Family Services, lead. We had a 20-day EOC open during the January storms, responding to the things that were happening at school sites. And it really was a team effort. And working at a school site for 17 years myself and being a site leader for almost 13 years, it's really important to me that we are holding school sites and school leaders and stakeholders and students and families at the center when we're responding to these incidents, and that we are providing very clear parameters for how to get support, we are aligned centrally to make sure that you're not being told different things or you're getting double information or because that just wastes time. So I'm going to stop where I'm at. I know that was a lot of information, so I sort of apologize in advance. There's one more thing. There's two more docs that I want to quickly put in the chat, which is a sort of condensed site-facing landing page of information and a condensed page of action items for the safety plan. Which again, these are all documents you can find in the classroom, on the template and on the admin page for, on the page in the admin handbook for comprehensive school safety plan. So it is like, I want you to be able to find this information in any and all places. And if you can set up time with me through Doodle link, what, you know, the thing I sent you, or you can just chat me or call me. I put my number, you know, please call me. A lot of you have my number. One of my goals is to be responsive and available, and for this not to be a like a mystery or hard to get information about. So I'm going to stop talking, and we can have the last 10 minutes for questions. And I appreciate all the work that you do at a site. I know it's not easy on a daily basis. Isaac and I have been talking over the last several days about stuff that's been going on at his site. And, you know, I just want to be supportive and helpful. And I appreciate the work you're all doing. So I'll open it up. And please ask questions of Laura. Yes, Rosina, they sure are. So good question, Isaac. That was a big push, 2018, 2019. We have had such a turnover with our admin and staff. It still comes up. What I have as far as protocols go is taken from I Love You Guys. I am contemplating after this year, sort of quote unquote bringing it back, but the concepts are the same, is what I would say. I'm trying to simplify things for everybody this year, and the template has changed. The CSSP template changed 3 years ago, changed a little bit last year, and it's changed a little. Oh, that's what I want to. I forgot about something. You'll notice that one of the things is different for folks who have been around a while is there's not that big long part at the end of this template that has all these ICS structures, incident command system structures, which is like incident commander, finance chief, like communications section chief, like all these things that are not appropriate for a school site. What's really important at a school site is that you have an incident commander, which is the principal, or if the principal designates one of you all in here that is not the principal as the incident commander, fine, whatever. But we don't need all of those people. It was stressing people out, and it's actually not necessary. I used to run a small school. I used to be the principal at a small school, and there weren't enough people to do all of those things. So if you notice in the last section, I talk about emergency response team, and that's really important, like what you do in these drills and who's responsible for what. But all those that insane list, that super long list of things to put in, no, like that's not necessary. We have it centrally because if there's an 8.0 earthquake, we have to have an ICS structure to make sure that we're doing things centrally to make sure that everybody has what they need across the district and that we're activated, but not school sites. Rosina, is there a recommendation of vendors for supplies? I mean, the cheapest place to get all those things is Costco, but you know, I don't know if Costco is one of our vendors on GoFast. I don't think it is. I know Amazon is, but actually one of the things, Rosina, that every year we get a little bit more organized centrally after we've come back for COVID, because what I noticed is coming back from COVID, everybody's kind of like COVID had been on the brain for the last 3 or 4 years. And I think we're all sort of reacclimating to this work that we're talking about right now. And so one of the things that we're trying to get better organized with centrally is, can we go back to providing those supplies to the school sites? But that's not something we're prepared to do right now. I don't have a recommended vendor of supplies, but do know that that's something we've been discussing, especially with the warehouse team. I bet. I know, Isaac. I know. We'd have to probably spend $100,000 at your site, though, with all the kids and the people. So I'd have to find budget for that. Um, wow, I guess it's all there then, huh? It's all in the. Have folks looked at the template thus far? Is it making sense? Like, come on, I should know by now that all call doesn't work. List of supplies. What is that, a statement or a question, Rosina? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a list on the Google Classroom list of no, but I can put that on there. Thank you, Rosina. I said everything's on there, but that's not. Thank you, Rosina. Thank you. Please do not hesitate to call me, chat me, email me. Like, Laura and I are here to help and support, and so is SFSD. And yeah. So, and please don't forget to fill out the form when you do. Oh, thanks, Laura, for putting your cell in there. And I mean it when I say Laura and I are joined at the hip. Like, we talk generally every day about something pertaining to this. No more questions, huh? All right.
I have a question, Senor.
Yay! Thank you, Denora.
Just to clarify real quick, we still are using the standard response protocol stuff, or we not? Because it's just slightly different, because it says hold, it says secure,
Yeah.
lock, whatever. So I just want to be clear about what it is that we're using as a general whole. Like,
I mean, here's what I'll say. Like, I adapted a lot of the stuff that I didn't. The reason why I didn't want to put the standard response protocol stuff out, because I didn't want to confuse people, because like different folks throughout the district know about that, but we'd have to do a whole new district training on it. What I'm thinking about for this year is trying to figure out if we want to do it again for next year, because they update it every year. Like, it's a good program.
Right.
But I think, like, if you still had it up in your classrooms, it's still, how do I put it? It's still useful. Like, it still connects with the documents that I'm putting out, because I use standard response protocol as guidance for what I put out. I thought it would be too confusing, and the last thing I wanted is people to be confused about this work.
Right. No, I'm only asking because the stuff that's on your classroom, talk about lockout, lockdown,
That's right.
those things. And so I just want to make sure that we're just going to go with whatever the Google Classroom says
Yes.
as a standard across
yes.
schools right now, because the SRP says hold, secure, and it says just a little bit of a different language for the same stuff. And so I'm just trying to make sure that we're saying we're using what's on your classroom.
Please do.
Got it.
And Isaac, yeah, you make a good point. They've reached out to me about doing some training. And so I think what we're doing with that is, as far as the police go, and law enforcement, we continue to have a really, really good relationship with them since we've come back to school after the pandemic. And we are working towards, reformalizing that relationship. And I think once that happens, we're going to be able to maybe do some more work with them along those lines. If you can read between the lines with what I'm saying. So please look through the documents I shared, only because it's got, I mean, Laura and I spent a lot of time this summer, trying to standardize all of this and standardize all of these docs. So please look through them. And please reach out with any questions. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. And I what's that, Denora?
I said, thank you. 'Cause
Oh, sure.
It's been a while.
Yeah. So also if anybody has any like, I guess we have to go. Never mind. Just reach
I
out
have
to
a
me.
question, Greg.
Yeah.
Is it okay to share the Google Classroom with my staff, my teacher, who is in charge? There's 2 teachers that are on the team.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I thought you were gonna say parents. I'm like, no, don't.
No. I have a team of teachers, so
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, of course. There's nothing secret on there.
okay. I just want to make sure that it's not just for admins. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other final last questions? All right. Allison, you said, oh, good. Oh, thanks. You put the recording up already. Thank you.
No, I haven't put the recording up.
Oh,
I'm going to pause the recording now,
okay. All right. And I'll also put
I think. Or no, maybe you paused
I
it.
can do it. Let me do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to stop it. Yeah. So what I'll also do is